We are live now. I think so. I'll confirm in my phone. Yes, we are live. We are live on Facebook. Hello, 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 Facebook. Hello, family here on Zoom. Welcome, welcome to Warriors of Light. Warriors of Light show. We are here. Yes, with the Imanas, Nehanda and Meg. Welcome to today's show, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Thanks for having us. It's really
yes,
good to be here. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. We're so excited to have you here because we're talking about love and everyone loves love. So this is going to be so cool. Thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation.
You're so welcome. I feel like I got an upgrade just from saying yes to this conversation because I had so many realizations today. So I was like, yay.
Yay, amazing. I'm just gonna share here on Facebook quickly, and then we will jump in. But if you're joining us on Facebook or Zoom, we are here opening and talking about opening up to love, and we are going to have a conversation with Nehanda and Max, and the last 15 minutes will open up to questions, any thoughts that you might have that you want to ask the lovely couple, married couple, right? And they're here to just help us move through opening up to deeper love, which is absolutely exciting. Yes, okay.
So, Joy, I was thinking that we could do just a couple-minute meditation just to bring us all into the present moment and bring our energies down, ground us a little bit more, if that's okay.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
so,
let's begin.
I'll guide everyone through just a simple meditation, just using breath and just feeling yourself, feeling your body, and just grounding ourselves together so we can be more connected in this moment.
Yeah.
So just close your eyes down, and just bring your attention to your breath, noticing how you're breathing. If you're breathing deep, if you're breathing shallow, if your breath's fast. Try and slow your breath down to about half your normal rate. Breathing in and out of the nose. Focus on bringing your breath deep into the belly. You can rest your hand on your belly so you can feel your belly expand as you inhale and contract as you exhale. Sorry guys, there's someone. Sorry about that. So back to breath. Inhale, expand your belly, and exhale, contract. Just calling in all your energies from where they've gone wandering. So bringing yourself into the present moment, letting go of the past, whatever is happening to you today, letting go of that, letting go of thinking about and worrying about what's going to happen in the future. Just bring your awareness fully into the present moment, feeling your body, feeling your breath. On your next exhale, so visualize going through the floor into earth core. Visualize yourself in the middle of earth core. And on your next inhale, inhaling back up from earth core, all the way up through the ground, through the dirt, through the rocks, through the floor, and into your feet. Feel the bottom of your feet. Feel your toes. Bring your awareness to your ankles. Your shins and calves. Feel your knees, the front and back of your knees. All the way up to your thighs and hips. Moving back to the belly. Notice the inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. Moving up to your heart center. Try and connect with your heartbeat. You can do that by trying to listen to your heartbeat, which is a very amazing thing to do. Or just feeling your heart, resting your hand on your heart and feeling the beat of your heart. Bring your awareness up to your face. Feel where there's any tension. If there's any tension in your shoulders, just relax your shoulders. If there's any tension in your eyes, relax your eyes. Bringing your awareness to the top of your head, to your crown. Activate crown chakra. And resting your hand palm up on your thighs or knees. Just continue focus on breath for a few moments here. Feeling full awareness of your entire body. Relaxing all tension. When you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and we'll get into the call.
Ooh, I don't think I want to. It was so good. Oh, that was so good. I think
Thank you.
I was like, no, let's keep going. But thank you so much, Megs, for this grounding meditation, connected meditation, breath work. So good to be connected. It's perfect because we are talking about that connection, that deeper energy of love today, which is like a basic need, a human right, you know, but something that we are all wanting to open up to so we may experience it more deeply, you know. So just gonna throw it to you guys to begin with a meditation on love or deep love, however way you want to take it. What is deep love and how do we call that in? Although that's a broad question, but yeah, giving it to you guys.
I think that the best way to call in deep love is to start with a deep love with yourself and a deep connection with yourself. And because we can only love others at the same level as which we love ourselves. So by deepening the connection and the love with yourself, you're able to call in a deeper love from other people, and you'll find that you'll connect deeper with other people, not just in partnerships and that kind of relationships, but also relationships in general. So, you know, even the way that you connect with strangers, the more that you love and accept yourself, the easier it is to connect with people in general. So that, I think that's the best place to start, is to start with that meditation of creating a deeper love with yourself.
And I want to add that a lot of people think that to create a deep love for yourself just means doing fun stuff and, you know, giving yourself hot baths. Okay, yeah, that's kind of part of it. That's a nurturing part of it. But I found that deep love is also deep, deep honesty with yourself. You know, honesty of how you really feel about things, honesty about the things that you're most afraid to admit to yourself sometimes. That level of honesty is what attracts a level of deep honesty and trust from other people as well.
Yeah.
And it's also, you know, sometimes going into places within yourself that are the most scariest. So looking at the worst patterns that you have, the trauma that you've inherited your whole, you know, from your family or your ancestors, going into those spaces proactively, you know, not waiting for something bad to happen for you to start to heal, but proactively going into deep spaces within your heart to make sure that your heart is as open as it could be without any kind of barrier happening. And that is a journey that can take years, but it's the more consistently you open up to yourself in that deep way, it actually hurts sometimes. Like you actually feel like this pain in your heart, like, oh my God, my heart's like ripping open. But really once that happens, it's like this gentleness and this, like, you know, the feeling that you used to feel when you were a child where you just like loved everything and loved everyone. I don't know. I have memories of being a child and just feeling this like intense love for everything and everyone, you know, and that's where we're trying to get to. And the more that your heart opens up to people, and this can also look like, you know, having forgiveness and compassion and, you know, having the capacity to be tolerant and understanding of other people and patient, you know, this is another form of like deep self-love, which then translates to other people. But the more that we do that, I've found the more magnetic we are to deep connections with other people. And even like our existing connections go into a much deeper level because we're able to receive them. And, you know, and the more open we are, the more other people start to feel like, oh, okay, I can open up to her now. And I can open up to him. It's like we create that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's continuous journey as well. The continuous journey of going into those deep spaces within yourself and looking at your shadows, and especially in a relationship, you have to continue to work on yourself, and knowing each other's shadows really help a lot as well, you know, and accepting each other in wholeness of, you know, shadow and darkness, and like knowing each other's shadows and knowing what triggers each other is a good way to deal with each other's shadows and go deeper into love as well, by knowing and understanding what makes that person tick, or, you know, what triggers that person, and accepting them in that.
Yeah, because it's not, we're looking for a perfect person, right? We're not looking for the perfect person in our lives, but what we're looking for is the capacity to really love someone, even when they are not fully showing up sometimes, even when they're down and out, you know, having like the way that a mother loves her child, you know, she has this unconditional love. And in the spiritual communities and stuff, people throw this word around, but when it actually comes to showing unconditional love, very few people are actually able to do this, because again, it comes back to, we can only love people as deeply as we can love ourselves. So if there are parts of you haven't forgiven, it's very difficult to forgive someone else. If you're not having compassion for yourself, there's no way you can have compassion for another person. If you don't trust yourself, you can't trust other people. And so it comes back to you always, because every relationship is a mirror of you and how your capacity to love. So if your life is lacking deep, meaningful connections and deep love, that means that you're not fully showing yourself that in your life. And that's where the work is, because once you start to do that and you start saying yes to your heart more than you say yes to your mind and your fears, then you start to manifest what I call soul family. your soul fractals. These are parts of your people that are connected to your soul and your higher purpose, and what you actually came to this world to do. Beyond our karma, we have dharma, and we have people connected to our dharma. And it's only when we start that journey of self-love and actually saying, yes, I'm going to show up for me, I'm going to show up for this, that's when you manifest those people. It's in those moments of great courage that you show for your own life, you know, and that's when those people show up. And I know for me and Max, that's how we met. I met Max at a festival in Melbourne called Rainbow Serpent, and I really didn't want to go to this festival because just the vibe of it, like, it was so foreign to me. It was a psytrance, and you know, a lot of like music that I wasn't really familiar with. I was gonna be in the bush for 4 days with strangers. There were so many fears that were coming up, and at the time I was in a dance troupe, and I was starting to say yes to the part of me that wanted to express my dance with other people. And this took a lot of courage and a lot of like inner work, because I had so many barriers to actually showing up in that way. Prior to that, I had previously been in a career in IT and was brought up to be a very different kind of person. So for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna go and just be, you know, this character and like express myself with like these fairies and mermaids at a festival. You know, these are the kind of character dress up kind of festival. So for me to do that, there was a lot, it was not my comfort zone, but I knew my heart just wanted to do that so badly. And something kept saying, you need to go to this festival, you need to go to this festival. So I went, and like my very first night there, I was walking around, just taking everything in. And then I see this guy, and it was Max. And he was in a booth, like his brother's like food truck store selling like Jamaican food. And I was like, oh yeah, he's probably a player, because I had all these belief systems that I probably wouldn't end up with a Jamaican man, because I had all these stories based on, you know, mainstream music, programming and conditioning that, you know, they're a kind of guy that's a certain way. And I actually had to do healing when I saw him on myself that night, because I was like, babes, those are not cool belief systems that you've got going on about, you know, judgments that you have on someone who you haven't met. And he really stood out to me. So that for the next couple of days, I didn't really notice anyone as much as I noticed Max. So I made a decision, like, okay, I'm not going to just be creepy and like watch and stalk this guy from a distance. I'm going to actually go and introduce myself and say hi. So that was another thing that I had to do that was like not my comfort zone. But I just had this feeling and this knowing that when you notice someone in a crowd, or you keep noticing a particular person, there's a reason that that's happening. A lot of the time it's because we're sensing resonance with a person, you know, whether they're a soulmate or they're going to be, you know, your husband, it doesn't really matter, but your soul always recognizes your soulmates or the people that are resonating with you on a frequency level, and they stand out to you. It's like they're like shiny in a whole crowd of people. And so I had experiences of this happening and those people ending up being my soulmates. So I took the risk and I was like, you know what? I might embarrass myself. His girlfriend might be in there. I don't actually know, but I'm going to go and I'm going to say hi. And it really paid off. Like as soon as I did, I realized we recognized each other straight away. It was like, oh, I've been waiting for this to happen. Like we both were like, oh, okay, finally. Like,
yeah. Because I hadn't seen her before she came up to say hi, because she knew my sister. My sister was there working with me, and she came up and said hi to my sister. And that's when I saw her, and I thought she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. And I was just so, it's like I recognized, it was just like that, what she was saying about that shininess of resonance. And yeah, I went up to her and I said that she's beautiful. and then that's just a thing just happened, and she asked, what happened? You asked me for she asked me if I wanted a hug. Yeah, because I had a really weird experience the night before, and I think she could sense that, maybe, I don't know, but she asked me if I wanted a hug, and I came out and around the the counter and hugged her. And there was a moment there where it felt like time stopped. It was just so beautiful, and everyone could feel it as well. Everyone told me afterwards they could feel it, and it was, everyone there was just watching us. It was just a really, really powerful connection in that moment.
And straight away, like, I think when we met, we just dived right into like the most oddest conversations, like how we both love trees. And, you know, and it was like, and then I was like, oh, he's just as weird as I am. This is so amazing, you know? And this is, so when you allow yourself to be as weird and as authentic and strange and bizarre as God intended you to be, there are people who'll be like, yes, I found my person. But when we're hiding and pretending to be something that we're not, we're never going to meet those people, because it's like they're looking for a blue person and you've got a red costume, but deep down inside you're blue as well. It's like
on that point, I want to add as well, it's like it's important to say yes to your fears and things that you want and maybe afraid of, but also important to know to say no to things that you don't want, so allow room for the things that you want to come in. Because I remember before this festival Rainbow, I stopped seeing women for like a couple of months because I was on Tinder and I was just like meeting just random people. It was always draining, you know. It was always draining. It never felt good, you know. And because I was in that vibe, I was, oh, I don't want anything serious, or I don't want, you know, I just want to have fun or whatever. But it wasn't really what I wanted, you know. But I did that, and after a while, I was like, nah, this is draining. So I just stopped speaking to girls altogether, stopped speaking to women, and yeah, it was and at Rainbow, I remember the night before I met Nehanda, I met someone else who like sparked that want in me again, you know, of wanting to meet my love and meet, you know, someone who I can really go deep with. And I remember calling that in the day before I met Nehanda. I was actually singing this song like by the Righteous Brothers. I forgot what it's called now. It's called Oh My Love by the Righteous Brothers. And I was singing that the night before I met Nehanda. And so I was calling that energy in, and I was ready for it and open.
And I was calling it in too, because I remember looking at the stars that night, just going, okay, universe, I'm ready for that person who I can share my full multidimensional self with. And meaning, like, I wanted someone that I could grow into the fullness of who I'm destined to be on a soul level, not just who you see me now. Because everyone knows when you're on a spiritual path, like, you're always changing. And you want someone who's changing too, but the main common denominator is spirit, and it's love. So even though you're both changing, you have this anchor that is the love between you two. And you're both doing that inner work. And, you know, with us, it's like spirit comes first. So where we decide to live, everything we do, it comes back to what is love asking of us? Like, does love want us to live in this way? Does love want me to continue doing this job? What does love want between the two of us? And love is the third person in the relationship, or, you know, and so, yeah. And I was just saying to Max, you know, a lot of relationships, people don't do that. They have what's brought them together, which is the initial attraction, you know, which can fizzle out at times when you don't have that deep friendship and that deep connection. And a lot of people put money as their God, you know. It's like money first, then whatever is being asked of us. And it never really works out, because spirit comes first, and then spirit will guide you and help you create the abundance and the support and everything that you're asking for. Everything we need comes from love. You know, the more you love yourself, the more you're going to actually create wealth as well. It's like people don't realize it. They do it the other way around. But it's like when you're in love, everything in your life expands. Every single thing. When you surrender to another person fully, and I'll use the word surrender because sometimes love can feel like a death. in a good way. It can feel like a part of you is dying and you're resisting, you know, you're like, oh, you know, I've already changed so much since meeting this person. Now what are they asking of me? And it's like, but you know, the more we surrender, the more life gets more sacred and more magical. And it's like, no surrender, no sacred. You know, I heard that the other day. It's like, if you don't surrender to love, you're not going to experience the sacred. It's just that simple. Yeah.
Wow. I just love everything. I'm like, okay, I don't know where to start, but I love that last slide, Nehanda. Surrender is so sacred. That's beautiful. That's also very, very true. And how it's more about the inner experience, the inner marriage before you can do that marriage with another soul. And how the more we go within and, you know, experience that love for ourselves, that sacredness, that connection with spirit, it just ripples out just naturally. And you don't even have to look for it, because I think the conversations around love on like the spiritual community, on the twin flame, it always feels like you have to be like trekking and finding this person and, you know, doing manifestation rituals, and then they will come, you know. So I really love how it's actually more of go within and look at every single system, belief, distortion, template that's actually allowing you not to experience love with the self first and then with other people, right? Because otherwise we will put other people to be, you know, the fixers, the one who have to give us the love. And then eventually that a person can do that for you, you know, they can't give you the love that you haven't yet allowed to bloom within you, you know. So I love that. And I'm thinking about like, the truth is for us, the idea of what you're talking about, like this beautiful Black woman and man in the sacred union, it's not as common as we would like it to be, as in like seeing and noticing this in our community, in the Black community. It's not, yeah, perhaps I should speak for myself. For myself, that's what I've experienced, where love doesn't look and feel sacred for most of our community. And I want us to dive deep into what's happening there. What are the things that we need to be moving through so that we can open up, especially particularly as Black people?
Yeah, I think we've got. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with saying that it's starting with acceptance of self. You know, I think with a lot of Black people, my culture, for example, in Jamaica, and for me, it took a long time for me to fully accept myself and accept, you know, the lineage that I came from, and accept that my ancestors were slaves, and the torture and abuse that they went through. You know, it made me really angry, so angry. I was like, I hated white people for a long time, you know, and like but it made me, yeah, I had to get past that. I had to accept that part of myself, because I was really rejecting that part of myself, but that there's so much power and so much, so much power in accepting that and loving that part of yourself, because it's what has created who I am now, right now. I wouldn't exist the way that I exist right now if it wasn't for that experience that my ancestors went through and all that. So bringing healing to that part of yourself, and that allows you to go deeper within yourself, and then you're able to then to love even deeper as well with other people.
Yeah, I also feel like for me, healing the self-hatred that was installed inside me when I was conceived, you know, that's been passed down generation to generation, you know, from so many of my ancestors never had this level of self-love, because they were in a reality where they were told that they were less than every other human being, you know, because of their color of their skin or how they looked. And so these things, I remember there was a time when I was in quite an abusive relationship for several years, and I really, really hated my hair. I hated how I looked as a Black woman in some ways. When I would visualize a future, I would visualize it with a white person, like, you know, a white man, whatever it is, because I literally had so much programming in my subconscious that white was better. And this level of self-hatred would make me like, I'd walk past brothers and I'd be like, you know, like I had like this attitude and this really rejection of other Black people because of my own self-rejection. And there was no way, you know, Max and I, we both talked about this. We were like, pretty sure we've been to the same places in the same time, but we didn't notice each other in the earlier years because we were too busy. Like, I know I was too busy hating on myself to have ever given him, to have even noticed him. If I was sitting next to him in a cafe, I probably would have ignored him. That's how much self-hatred I had. And so I had to work through the ancestral blockages around that. But beyond that as well, you know, most of us come from, I think the average Black family either has, you know, some kind of cheating, dysfunction, abuse, trauma. Again, this stems from the oppression that we've inherited, that's in our DNA. You know, we have had, you know, women have been put at a lower level than men and treated really badly. And, you know, this shows up as, you know, absent fathers or fathers who are creating children with many different other women behind the wife's back. And then the women being really bitter and resentful towards the men. And then I remember being a child, just already feeling this sense of, I can't fully trust my dad, you know, because of however my mom was feeling while she was pregnant with me, of not being supported, which she inherited from her mother and her grandmother. It was like this whole recurring thing. And if we see our men as not being able to show up for us, if we don't trust them, you know, I remember there was a time when I started dating Max, I would not fully trust him sometimes. And I would actually feel it, because my face would like change, and I knew that there would be like some ancestor around me, like a low vibe ancestor that's like, yeah, men, they don't, you know, waste of time, this and that. And I remember that the energy between us would change, and then I'd actually create a fight. I'd be like, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do, and I'd start to see all the negative things, you know. And then I noticed that would always happen every time I had like a genetic stress online. Like a genetic stress is like a trauma from our ancestors that gets triggered in a moment, you know? And so whenever I had a genetic stress online, I would have like these energies of like my ancestors, like fallen ancestors, not the good ones, because there's good and bad ancestors. And the bad ancestors are stuck in time in a very, very limited frequency of like maybe hatred or spitefulness or bitterness. So I would feel these things and I would create conflict, and I would like separate myself from Max. And I knew that, oh, okay, this is like one of those virus programs that's running in my brain right now that's creating this in my environment, and I'd have to delete it. So I think part of the reason we don't have healthy relationships in our communities as Black people is because it's literally been hardwired into our DNA from our ancestors who didn't have this, and they were programmed not to have this by white people as well, because they actually would split up families. Even here in Australia with Indigenous Australians, they would take children away from families, split families up, because they knew that if, for example, if the woman has been raped or she's had sexual trauma, then she's not going to be as strong a mom. And maybe it's going to separate the husband and the wife. And then the family unit isn't strong. And if the family unit isn't strong, then we grow up feeling quite disempowered, abandoned. We're not quite as effective as we could be because we didn't have that foundation, that strong foundation of love. And, you know, this is throughout the world, even in Jamaica, that story you were telling me about the slaves.
They used to do really harsh things to the slaves in Jamaica. They used to try and keep us from knowing a true history, and know that our history is more than just what was, than slavery. There's so much more to where we actually came from and what we've contributed to the world, and learning all of that and going in deeper into that also gave me more power and more belief in myself as well. But yeah, they used to take the babies away from the mothers as soon as they're born, so that they couldn't pass down the knowledge of the ancestry. So that way they could erase the knowledge, and that's how they did that. So they couldn't pass the knowledge down to the new generation, which was just so crazy, man. So things like that just made me really angry. But when I started to learn to accept that, and that acceptance brought me deeper. So then I was able to learn more about my history and more about where my ancestors came from, and more about the indigenous people of Jamaica as well, and where my ancestry came from in Africa, and more about Egypt and everything to do with the Black history and what we've contributed to the world. And then that acceptance actually made me realize the beauty of my body and those things that I didn't really see about myself, that I used to not really accept the darkness of my skin, but after going through this process of healing all of that trauma, I was able to see things about my skin. Like I started noticing that just before I start sweating, when it's a hot day, my skin glistens, like it's like rainbow colors that I never noticed before in like 25, 30 years, almost 30 years of my life. I never noticed that. And I noticed like I could see that same reflection on my eyelashes when the sun hits my eyelashes. And it's like, it's just so much beauty about myself that I'd never noticed before.
I want to add something as well, Joy, to do with the reason we don't see so much love in our community as well. It also comes back down to like, what you grew up seeing. So if you grow up seeing abuse and seeing your father talk to your mom badly, and then seeing your mom gossip about your dad, or, seeing her being really resentful, whatever it is, like whatever patterns we grow up, that is literally the foundation of love that we download as a child. So from 0 to 7 years old, you're learning these patterns from people around you. So if you're struggling with love right now, then there's a very good chance the foundation that you grew up with, there were some distortions there about what love actually is. And, we can associate abuse with love because that's what we grew up seeing. So it's familiar. So even though it's not like actually a good energy or a good thing, it's familiar. So there's a part of us that's like, oh, okay, I can recognize this, and we'll actually choose someone. If you're not doing the inner work, you'll actually be attracted to people who hurt you, because that's the definition of love you have in your subconscious mind. So if you're in a room of like 10 guys and you can pick any one of them, you'll pick the person who resonates with whatever story you've got in your subconscious mind. And if you're not attracting love at the moment, then there's a very good chance that you have very, very strong subconscious programming about not wanting to be with another person and surrender fully, because of whatever other trauma you've downloaded into your subconscious mind. So whatever we're experiencing in our life, there's a part of us that is definitely 100% creating this. And then there's also the unconscious part that's connected to the trauma that we have and the stories that have been passed down in our blood, in our DNA. So if there's been a history of abandonment by the masculine, then that's what we will attract. Or we will just be like, I don't even want a bar of the masculine, And it's like, and it's happening so subconsciously that you're like going on date, you're looking actively, you're trying to date, whatever, and it's just not happening. And it's like, there is then that's where when you come back to that deep, deep inner self-love journey of healing, that will reveal all those pieces to you. And sometimes it takes as long as it takes, sometimes we're also getting a deep lesson on patience and letting other people in. So when I say letting other people in, I mean, like, for example, when I met Max, around that time, I was living in a house with like 7 other girls who I would really have agreed to live with him. But in that moment, something shifted in me, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to allow my community into my heart. I'm going to allow other humans in, because before that, I was a loner. I was very much in my own space. I really didn't feel comfortable sharing all parts of myself with people. And when I manifested this, it is like something opened in me, because that allowing of more people into my heart and allowing other people to see me all the time and my vulnerability, that did something to my heart that made it so I could also meet Max. You know, it was like, it was an opening, and like, you can't touch yourself from your community and like do your own thing and be in a solo bubble and still expect to open up to love, because it's the same doorway. So if you have walls and doors that are closed from people that have hurt you in the past, it's the same door. It's like, and so a lot of us have grown up seeing these patterns in our families, and that's what we're sitting.
Yeah. Yeah, I love everything that you guys are saying. I'm like, oh my God, so many points. I definitely love what you were just saying also, Nehanda, about like, you know, often when we talk about love, it feels like someone has to come and just drop the love. Like, here is your person, you know, and it seems like you could just ask the universe for love and love will come. And what we find is that, like we are saying, most of us consciously, we will say we want and desire love, but really at a subconscious level, there is an energy of that actually not being safe for you to actually experience that love that you want, you know? So the conversation of safety is coming up right now in my mind about how with all the history that has happened to Black people, just the fear that was created in our minds and our psyches has just created it's not safe to, you know, to love, to experience love, you know. And this is why even now in our families, we're not really being our true authentic self, because there's that feeling that I could be rejected, I could be abandoned, we could get separated, you know. So we come into relationships with just one foot in, because we're like, I don't know what's about to happen here. And it often also feels like we are not in control, you know. So it's the other person, they are the one who did this to me, they're the ones who are rejecting me right now, but we're not seeing that self-rejection, self-abandonment that we are doing, which of course comes from our ancestral lineages and the experiences that they went through. But there's also us consciously sometimes, you know, opting into that belief and just feeling like it's not safe. And I think we received a question here, which is in alignment with this, about how can we feel safe to love, and how was that experience for you, where Nehanda, you mentioned in the beginning it was quite difficult to trust him because of the ancestral patterns, and then healing happened. How do we open up even more to feel safe, to receive love, to experience love in the depth that we actually desire, you know? Because there's that also, where we sometimes get a lover who is great in many ways, but we're not going as deep as we actually really desire, we would like to go, right? Yeah. And I will follow up with this question for you, Max, but I'm asking you, Nehanda.
Okay, so when I started, I guess my spiritual awakening, I dated a few different people, and those relationships that I experienced at the time were a little bit deeper than some of the surface level stuff that I was experiencing in my early days, but it still wasn't deep enough. And to be honest, there was still some lingering distorted patterns that I was attracting. Like I still would, you know, after meeting someone who I feel like this person's my soulmate, then feeling like they've just abandoned me when it gets hard. You know, they don't want to do the work to actually go deeper. Like it's like it was nice when it was still the early days, the early stages where there's that chemistry and that attraction. But like when it comes down to the real thing, I felt like some of my my exes at that time, they weren't willing to go that extra depth with me because it was going to require an ego death. You know what I mean? It was going to require some sacrifice. People don't like this word like sacrifice. They think, they don't even, spiritual people don't even like the word compromise. It's all like, and I think there's a bit of a distortion with that because a lot of us are at the stage where we are very independent and we're living our best lives. We're like traveling. Yes, we're doing the inner work, but we never truly let people in. Like we only just like give them like as you said, Joy, 1 foot in. Even with your friendships, you always let people in, just like there's something you always hold back for yourself. And that in itself is an energy. That behavior of not fully letting people in, of feeling like when you have thought forms like, oh, I'm gonna, I can't really trust people, I'm gonna be hurt, I'm gonna be betrayed. The belief that that is even possible is the frequency that you're putting out. So not so much that it's not so much that you need to like overlay that with positive affirmations, because that doesn't really work, but it's really at a fundamental level. Do you really believe that other people are you? Do you believe that, like Jesus used to say, love thy neighbor as yourself? Like, because when you're at that level of loving other human beings, you are not afraid of them. You're not afraid of, no one can actually hurt you anymore, because it's like your heart is so open that things can come and you're just like, you just transmute them. It's like, push, like, it's like no one else's negative energy or behavior can actually hurt you anymore, because you realize in every situation of pain, there is a 50% that you were involved in, that you created. And when you're at that level of understanding, where you're at that level of accountability with yourself, trust is easy. It's easy to trust. And forgiveness is like always given. Even before the person's hurt you, you've already forgiven them. It's like you live in that space of such deep openness that whatever life is delivering to you in your relationships with people, it is always for your highest and best. Everything, no matter how negative it is, there is something there for you to receive and learn about your soul and yourself. And sometimes, we need to let love shatter us. There's experiences I've had where I've been like, I feel like I've been annihilated by love, and the pain that I went through. I've had so many memories of being on, a couch crying and eating ice cream, and you can't get out of bed because this person hurt you so badly. But what I've learned now with all the years and all the experience of all these different relationships, I've realized in all those times that I felt so hurt, it wasn't really the other person. It was because on a mental level, I made a story about what I experienced, and that literally created walls around my heart. And that's the pain that was making me feel debilitated on the couch. Yeah. It's not really the other person. It's always about your ability to stay open, even when people hurt you. It's like, it is actually possible to live in a way where someone can hurt you, but it actually doesn't hurt you. It's like you can return non-love with love. Yeah. And when you live in that space, you won't attract people that are going to hurt you. They're not even on the same channel. It's like you're broadcasting on a different radio station, and the people that are the betrayers, the non-trustworthy people, the backstabbers, they're in a different channel. So it all comes down to, what are your belief systems about other people? What do you deep down secretly feel about people? Like I remember I mentioned earlier, when I met Max, the first thought form that came into my mind was, yeah, he's probably a player. Mm-hmm. He's Jamaican. Look at him with all these white women. Yeah, he's probably got all these like women around him. And I created all these stories in my head, not realizing this guy's been celibate. He's not interested in all the women I'm seeing around him. He's on a deep inner journey, just like me. And so I had to like delete that program before I even had a conversation with him, because I knew that if I'm putting that vibe out and I'm trying to interact with him, it's just not going to work. It's like what you're believing about people is what you're going to get back. So if you believe, I don't know if any of you have ever had an experience where you have like a friend, and maybe this friend is like really, really nice to you, but when you mention this friend to other people, they're like, oh yeah, that person, yeah, they're just such a bitch. And you're like, no, but they're so sweet to me. but they're sweet to you because you see them as that. You're getting the best of them. It's like everyone has the potential to be really beautiful to us or really ugly to us, depending on what we're projecting of them, what we believe is possible with them. And when you live from that space of, I'm going to get the best of everyone because I'm going to deeply love everyone and I'm going to deeply love myself, that's usually like you put that out and you get an echo, and that's what you get back from people. Even people that, you know, you would have thought, oh, everyone says this person is so awful. You'll get the nice, that person will be so nice to you. You'll be the only person that they're nice to, but it's like, because you're calling that in and you're making space for that through your aura, through your energy field, through your thoughts about other people and what you're projecting. So I hope that answers the question. I feel like I covered it.
Well said, yeah. I want to add just one thing about forgiveness as well. And forgiveness, it's not just a mental thing. It's not just believing that or just saying or affirming to yourself that you forgive that person. It's something that you have to feel deep within yourselves. You know, so whether someone's hurt you in the past, you want to really get past those barriers that you put up around your heart, or you know, get past those barriers and actually feel the resonance of forgiveness, so that when you think of that thing or that person, you don't no longer feel rattled anymore. And it's the same thing if you're forgiving someone. It's in the word forgive. You know, if you have a negative thought form about someone that you can't trust them, you can forgive them for something that they haven't even done already. And that can also, that you feel that resonance within yourself, and that brings you to a deeper layer of trust.
Yeah, and I'll share something about trust, because I remember earlier on in our relationship, because Max and I both went on through a very, very strong journey of learning to be shamans, you know, and that was kind of an experience, because we got to see what we were each carrying from an ancestral place, and maybe a soul, you know, soul wounds and stuff. And I remember there were times where Max would have these dreams that I was cheating on him. And he would like wake up like, and he was like, oh, I had one of those dreams again. And then I just became really aware that actually this program is running somewhere in his subconscious, but it's also probably connected to his ancestors and what they experienced, you know, as well. And so it allowed me to just be a little bit more understanding and considerate that, okay, like it's not that he doesn't trust me, but he's really fighting this program that you can't trust Black women or whatever it is. And the same was for me. It was like there was a day I had a dream about Max cheating on me. And I woke up and I was like really upset that day. And then I realized, oh, okay, I'm actually healing something on a soul level connected to just my ability to trust and like know that he's not gonna hurt me in that way. It's like sometimes it's like, so your spirit will give you these initiations to learn to trust by showing you the opposite, even in dreams, you know, because it's a lot safer. You know, I'd rather manifest something in a dream than in person. But all of those things showed me that we're all hardwired with patterns of deep distrust of other people, you know, and whether it even sometimes goes down to family members. Sometimes we just don't trust our family because there's just this fundamental lack of trust. And it comes back to you, again, fundamentally not trusting yourself in some way, some level, some part of yourself you are not fully trusting. So once you fully start trusting yourself, and when I say yourself, not your brain or your mind, but the guidance that you're getting from your higher guidance that's coming through your perception and intuition and your spirit, that guidance, oftentimes we don't even hear it. Or if we do hear it, we don't want to follow it because we're too scared. And we don't really trust that life has got our back. We don't feel that, okay, if I just go for my dreams, life is going to hold me and support me. And that same feeling of not trusting life, not trusting the visions that spirit is giving you, that's the same lack of trust that gets extended into relationships and people around you, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just opening up Q&A now. Everyone who is joining us on Facebook and here on Zoom, you may begin to share. If you have any questions, any thoughts really on what Nehanda and Max have been sharing, which is like so amazing and so powerful. And what's coming up for me is because we speak about dreams, I've been on that same journey of really healing all my deep patterns, all the ancestral stories within me with regards to love in particular, and I come from a lineage of women who often choose not to be in partnerships, and there is that ancestral energy that's connected to an ancestor or who is a priest who experienced a lot of counseling couples who are in very harmful, abusive relationships. And it's said, like, I hear this from all my aunts, how he used to say none of his daughters will ever get married if this is how it is, and that's like a vow, like that's an energy that the children had so many times at a subconscious level, and it just created this imprint. And now we have a lot of daughters choosing not to get married because, great grandfather said, you will not do it if this is how it is, And that has been a pattern that I was working on, which was an ancestral energy. And another one was, I recently had a dream with a friend of mine who is a very lovely soul. And he came in the dream and he was showing me how love is supposed to feel, right? And in the dream, I was saying, no, it can't be that, because it was not familiar to me in anyhow. It was, it's the city of love, which is like this purest form of like just being loved because you are lovable, and that's it, end of story. And there was that conversation his soul was having with me where he's like, you need to get that joy, you are good enough. End of story, full stop. Not good enough in comparison to other people, good enough in comparison to the old you, but like essentially as a being, this you is complete. Like there is nothing to add. There isn't anything missing here. And like all the stories just got dissolved because I'm like, this is what I've been operating on. Like I have to go prove that I'm good enough for this love. Then that's when it can come in, So what I want to ask you guys is, how do we move through these? It's inner work, I know, but like for someone who wants to begin, move through our ancestral patterns and vows and genetic stresses, as well as our own inner vows that we have made where we're like, I have to prove, I have to earn it, I have to, whatever story you are running with, which is important to identify what's the stories, what's the pattern, where they come from. Now, moving from, I realize that this is what's happening, to now dissolving that, like where can someone begin, right? And so many questions coming up, but I will throw that for you guys to share now.
So I think people can begin by becoming more aware of themselves, begin with meditation and becoming aware of your thoughts, aware of your emotions, aware of your emotional body, your mental body, and beginning to unpacking where those thoughts are coming from. Are they something that has happened to you in this lifetime? Is it some kind of trauma that you've experienced from your families or from your mom and dad, or from your childhood, as Nehanda was saying before? Is this something that was in your first 7 years of life, or in your second 7 years of life, where you create your personality? So it's just really starting to unpack those thoughts and emotions and finding the root cause of them and going into that. And you can do things like doing a root clearing words like belief systems. If there's something that you really have a lot of fear about, you can start by root clearing how you're feeling on that. Or
yeah, I want to add to that.
You want to add to that?
Yeah, it's interesting that Max says that, because I remember when my very, 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 everyone who knows me knows I'm an artist. And my very, very first, I guess, creative project or art thing that I was involved in, for me to do that, there were so many things I had to like work through, because I didn't even see or believe that it was possible for me to be an artist. And I remember I manifested an experience where I was gonna go to a house where all these artists were staying, and there was this woman who wanted to do some soul portraits with me and do some photo shoots and stuff. And I remember I had to sit and root clear what the word artist means. And root clear means you just take a word and you just start to write the first things that come to your mind about that word. That's just showing you what you feel about that. So I remember writing the word artist, and there was like poor, destitute, drug addict. I don't know, I had all these words that were coming up associated with the word artist. And then I would just my awareness of what I had, the thoughts I had around this word, meant that I couldn't express that. And just to fast forward, the people I met in that house, in that experience, are the exact same people who I ended up being in the dance event with, where I met Max. See how it's all connected? It's like I had to say yes to my inner artist. So it seems completely unrelated, but it's like you got to say yes to parts of yourself. And when you say yes to those parts of yourself, they will lead you on a path that will lead you to more of your soul family. That's how it works. It's like, so if you have this burning desire to be a gardener, for example, and you're like an accountant right now, you're like, oh, I just love gardens, man, but I'm going to have to wait till I'm 70 because, I just no way I can afford that. So you just believing that that's not possible, that love that you have for gardening, like you believing, nah, that's never going to be for me. You're literally blocking the part of yourself. And how do you know that once you say yes to gardening, and maybe you do a gardening course, at your gardening course, you might meet your soulmate who's also a gardener, also loves gardening. And then the two of you are going to start a gardening business and be really happy together. You see, it's like sometimes you just have no idea where life is going to take you, but you have to say yes to the inner voice that's in your heart that's like, I really want to do this thing. And sometimes you don't know what it is you really want to do, but it's showing up in the things you're jealous of in other people. So I remember before I was an artist, I was really jealous of other artists. I was always like, oh man, I wish I could express I'm never going to be able to do that. I don't even have the confidence. Nah. It's like, just saying yes to yourself. And even there's this movie that I encourage everyone to watch if you haven't ever watched it. It's called The Yes Man with Jim Carrey. And he say no to everything, to his friends, to hanging out. And then he decides one day that he's just going to start saying yes to everything, no matter how ridiculous it is. And that's literally what I did when I started awakening. I started to say yes, or I was at least curious about things I didn't understand, things I didn't know, but my heart was just saying yes to life. Sometimes we're not meeting the right people because we're not saying yes to life. We're like staying in our comfort zone, in our little squares, in our little bubbles, in our little like identities that we've created for us that are limiting us and blocking us from connecting to more love. So it just starts with saying, okay, like, what do I really want in this life? Because that dream person that is gonna be your soulmate or your twin, whatever language you use, that person is also wanting to create that future with you. And they probably complementary gifts, or they have the same dream at the core. It's like they're dreaming the same dream with you on the other side of the world or wherever they are. And it's like, you've just got to say yes to it. And the universe will lead you to them and they will be led to you. But it starts with the yes.
Follow your highest excitements. Then everything just falls into place. Yeah. I love this question by 𝐶𝐏𝐶𝐿. Hello, 𝐶𝐏. Thank you for joining us. She was here with us last week, and we're actually talking about how we often like to play out a template. You know how you're like, the word artist, what does it mean? And then we feel like if I become this means I am going to be poor and destitute and this. And we're just talking about how with the word healer or shaman or sangoma, we think of particular stories with that, and it could either open you up or you contract and you're like, I don't want that. But that's you though, that you are rejecting. Right. So this one is for you, Max, but also Nehanda, you can answer. But the question is, it seems like Black women do more work than Black men when it comes to love. So that even after women do that work of healthy relationships, healthy relationships are still elusive. Can we overcome that? And also for you as a Black man, what would you say to the Black men just to help us? Because we're trying, women are trying out here. Yeah.
Okay, so let me make sure I got the question straight. So it's saying that Black women usually do a lot more work on themselves than Black men do. And how can Black men overcome that? Is that the question?
The question is that women are doing the inner work, but then healthy relationships seem elusive for them. Like, it's like there's this unevenness where there are a lot of women who have healed, but few men who have done it. So where are we gonna get this men who can relationship with? Well, yeah, essentially. How can we overcome that number situation, you know?
Yeah. So first, you got to believe that the men are out there, because they are. They are out there. Black men that are doing the work on themselves are out there. I'm seeing more and more brothers that are stepping up and doing the work, and actually sharing themselves and sharing with other brothers as well, and doing the work. But also sharing about that, asking the men in your life, to planting the seeds to them that, you know, that they can do this, because some men are not aware that they can. And the truth is that all men, they want to be better versions of themselves. And if you look at the older generations of like our fathers and our grandparents or whatever, they weren't taught this knowledge that we have now. You know, they weren't taught a lot about self-love and going deep into themselves and spirituality and all that stuff. So, but at the heart of them, at the core of them, they want to be better. They want to be the best version of themselves. They want to be able to love deeper. So every single man, Black man, white, every single man on the planet wants to be able to love deeper, and they want to experience that love as well. But yeah, they have to, some people are not aware that they can actually experience that, or how to start, or how to be.
And, you know, remember I was saying that we have to be careful what we think about things, you know, because if you have a belief system, well, that there's not enough men out there and they're not enough who are doing the work, then you're in lack. And that's not the right vibration. So already you're putting a limitation, because the second you look at what is and you make a defining statement, that's actually not really based on the whole truth, because someone might be doing deep inner work from your work, and they just don't tell you about it. You just don't know that they're a deeply spiritual person. Maybe they just keep to themselves and they're sitting there but because you have this belief that you are also creating a wall, and your energy field is closed. So even if that person might have been interested in you as well, and they're willing to do the deep inner work, you've created a barrier that says that's not possible. So the universe is going to give you what you believe is possible, which is nothing, you know, seeing more and more men who don't want to show up. The other thing is that I will say is that, you know, when you're in the right kind of relationship with someone, even if they're not at the same level as you in terms of how much spiritual work they've done on themselves, if they're willing and they're devoted to growing with you, you'll be amazed at how quickly people grow and how quickly they're able to match your vibration. It's like, because you're sharing space, it's like within like a few months, this person's completely transformed. We're seeing that with so many people that we work with, like, you know, like one of your other clients, when you're doing the program. Like people just change. Like once they make the decision to change, you'll be amazed how quickly someone can just start taking on this inner work and change to a greater version of themselves.
I've also noticed that with doing these ancestral healing and genetic stress healing, it actually, your aura, it ripples out, you know, it's healing yourself, but it also ripples out into the collective. Like I've noticed, for example, with my family, my brothers and my parents, I started this journey first, and I've noticed that since I've been doing these healings, that people have been coming more online and talking about their healing. Like my mom, for example, for few years, I've been talking about healing the inner child, and she never really got it. But just a couple of weeks ago, she called me and she was telling me about healing her inner child. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing. Like I've been trying to, I've been planting seeds here and there, and people can just feel it from my energy field. And yeah, it was just so amazing, right? So you can, by doing this healing on yourself, it also ripples out as well. And you can plant seeds into, by just being yourself.
Yeah, and I want to add to that because I waited for like 10 years for my parents to acknowledge my healer, and now they come to me for healings, and I can talk to my dad about self-love, who's in his 70s, and we're doing affirmations, and he's doing the inner work at 70. Like, it just shows you that never ever give up on other people. And sometimes we just have to live in the space of timelessness, which is like not believing that there's not enough time, I'm never going to meet the right person, I'm running out of time, I'm too old, it's taking too long. It's like the universe has its timing. And right now there's like a mass awakening. So many people are surprising you. Like I'm meeting people who I'm like, I never saw it coming that this person would start doing inner work. But look, everything is changing. So I want you to step into that openness of trusting that, okay, if I'm on this journey, I'm going to meet someone and people, not just someone, but I'm going to meet lots of people, a whole village of people who are on this journey with me, and I'm not alone. And because that's actually the truth, you are definitely not alone. And with that belief of knowing that you can actually create that, you will be placed in the right situation at the right time to manifest what your heart desires.
And you'll bring that out of more people just by being yourself. And people being with you and being in your aura, you'll start to bring that more out of them anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Love that. We have two other questions. So TD, hello TD. She's saying, family seems to work hard in breaking your trust. It's as if they have been sent to test your limits, and that breaks a person. How does one work on that, especially if you have done the work? Right, so going deeper to transmute the heartbreaks that happen in families.
I'll just share with you that it's not something that just happens instantly like that. You'll have layers of it, that come up. Each time you're growing and expanding, it's like you have to imagine that you're like, I always use this analogy in my sessions with people, that you're like those dolls, those Russian dolls with the shells and the layers. So each layer of work you do to heal yourself and to maybe heal something that happened in your childhood with mom or whoever. Each layer of that happens, it's like you settle and you expand into a new level of love and understanding. But it doesn't mean that that's the end of it, and you're done. It's like the more you expand and go deeper into your heart, there'll be always new layers that you're tested with, new things that you're going to have to learn to forgive and come to an understanding. And what I want you to understand is that with your family, you specifically chose them to do that to you because you needed something to push you into your karma so that you could really step into love. It's like, nothing is random and by mistake. We literally choose sometimes the most wounded families because we need something as a catalyst to push us deeper into our karma so we can heal and learn to love on a much, much deeper level. I would say, the journey isn't identical for everyone, right? So for me, when I started to open up into deeper love for my family, it started with first having an understanding of like who Africans were, because the story that I was told and what I actually ended up finding about my ancestors was completely different. And that started to let me see my family in a much greater sense of awe and honoring them in a way and seeing them as, wow, they're these, they're royalty, like they're these amazing beings. And sometimes that's where we need to start, is we need to change the story we have of the people around us, because they're not limited to that story. And if we keep projecting, oh, well, this, if, like, for example, my dad went through so many transitions in my life. There was a time he was an alcoholic. If I still believed that he was always going to be an alcoholic, I wouldn't be seeing this beautiful spiritual side to him that's sober. It's like we have to be willing to see people for their higher selves, because everyone, no matter what shadow they have a higher expression of that shadow, which is called the 𝐶𝐷, or the enlightened state. It's a quality within them that is the opposite of what they're doing. So, for example, I used to feel really judged by my mom growing up. But she also, that same judgment energy that she had is the same energy that makes her very wise and perceptive and discerning. It's what, when she's like, I don't really, I don't know if that's a good decision for you, whatever. It's the same energy, because her brain is like that. It can be very critical, but I started to not project that shadow onto her anymore. I stopped, she'd ring me and I'd be like, actually, my mom's this wise, amazing, like owl woman, she's so perceptive. Instead of the story of, oh, mom's going to judge me again. It's like, we've got to change how we see people. And they feel that, if you stop seeing someone from a negative perspective and you start noticing the good things about them and you start emphasizing that in your awareness, that is a healing in itself.
Yeah.
And that's a really good place to start. It's like, what? Because I could say to you right now, you need to go do, 10 shamanic journeys and an ayahuasca ceremony and a this and a that. But really, if you're not treating the people that are around you with love, by respecting them and seeing them as a higher version, even though they can't even see that about themselves, if you can't see your family as an extension of God, then there's no spiritual technique can actually do that for you. It's a practice. It's a daily practice of deciding to honor the people around you, to live in gratitude and love and appreciation, even if those people have hurt you, even if they've done things that are just not cool. It's like understanding, okay, this is where my soul decided to start, but I'm going to choose to see these people in a different way. I'm going to choose to see myself in a different way. I'm going to choose to be different. And you'll always be guided. The more you live from that space, you'll be guided to the next thing that you need to do to heal. That's within your environment or your reality. It's like there isn't an identical path for everyone, but it's more of an intention and a willingness to create a reality where you live in greater harmony and you see people in a different light. Yeah.
I want to add to that as well, that because seeing someone as their higher self is such a powerful thing. You can really see the effect of it, especially when people are in a shadow state and you're projecting that to them. And I'll say that in some ancient indigenous cultures, when someone did something wrong, they used to like gather in a circle and with that person in the middle, and then everyone will go around the circle and everyone would tell that person to remind them who they are, because they've fallen and they're in a shadow pattern. So they took that time to remind the person who they are instead of punishing them. And that was that was just such a powerful thing. And that really does.
Yeah. What if everyone was Jesus Christ? Because if you grew up with the idea of Jesus Christ and imagining that everyone around you is exactly Jesus Christ, it will just, everything dissolves. We come into that like instant love, devotion, even despite whatever shadow is playing out, right? Because we're seeing the soul. And yeah, love that. So powerful. So one last question from Facebook. This one breaks my heart. Hello, Omatla. Omatla is asking, she's saying and sharing, I used to be with someone and he passed away because of suicide recently. I feel deep within my heart that I haven't really dealt with it. I will find myself having dreams about him, but I'm afraid to confront him. how can I clear this? Yeah.
Yeah, it's forgiveness, forgiveness and understanding. My younger brother, I totally, I have an understanding of what it's like to lose someone to suicide, because my younger brother killed himself in 2017. He was just on we were very close, really close. Like, he was only 10 months younger than me, and we always did everything together, and we had a spiritual awakening together and back in 2012. And we had our teenage years together, and we had all the same friends, and yeah, we worked together to all these amazing things, and seeing energy and seeing other dimensions. We had a lot of amazing experiences together, but it also included a lot of drug abuse, and we're kind of on a self-destructive path as well. And yeah, I was able to get off that path and turn my life around through healing myself. But unfortunately, my brother wasn't able to do that. So he just kept spiraling out of control, and it got worse and worse over the years. And it got to a point where he had this thought form, like, to kill himself for ages, for like 4 years. And it kept coming up, and he kept saying it to his mom, and he had different moms, same dad. And no one really believed that he was going to actually do it until he did it. And yeah, it was heartbreaking, very difficult. And but I was able to forgive him. I think that a lot of people think that when people kill themselves, they're so selfish, and they're very selfish for leaving everyone else behind to deal with the pain. But the truth is that I know from my brothers that most of the times people actually believe that we're better off without them. And that's the point, that's the low point that they get to, is that they believe that the people are better off without them. And but having a deep sense of forgiveness and realizing that it's a deep shadow pattern that is ingrained within them. It's something that it's a very strong collective program that's running at the moment, and especially with men, it's a very strong collective program that's there. And although it's not really them, it's a deep shadow pattern that is making them want to kill themselves, so I think having that awareness and knowing that that person just sunk so low that they actually got to that point where they did it, and knowing that they didn't do it to hurt you, they actually would have done it because they thought the world is better off without them. And so forgiveness and acceptance.
I want to share as well, because I got to meet Max's brother on the other side when he passed away, because I just met Max, and because he committed suicide, I felt really called to do a ceremony to help his soul move to the light, because he was I felt like he was trapped between the worlds. And I got to meet him then, and I got to really have a sense of who he was. And sometimes we don't understand this, but when someone's been suffering for so long in their physical body through whatever turmoil and shadow patterns and intense stuff that's going on in their body that you'll never really fully understand because you weren't in their body, you realize that sometimes the soul decides it's had enough. you know, because this world, the way things are set up, it's not easy. And sometimes someone's soul is like, you know what, I'm just going to try again, because we're eternal. We actually never really die. That's the truth. Like in my work as a shaman, I've done so many healings to retrieve parts of me that suicided in other lifetimes. And you know, I've done that to myself many, many times when I didn't have the awareness that actually life could get better, that there was something I could do. And so I want you to realize that he's doing all right. You know, like when people kill themselves, they go back to source, they go back to love, you know, and all that is. And it's not like what they say, like, oh, you're going to go to hell and there's going to be pitchforks. It's not like that really. But the true essence of their soul is good, is in a good place. You know, it's probably already figured out the next journey and the next story. And so all you can do is have gratitude for what this person brought to you in your life, the lessons that they showed you, and maybe them leaving you in this way was you needed to have this heart shattering so that you could move into a deeper level. Because I know when Max went through this, it was just at the beginning of our relationship, and he went through an enormous heart opening through the pain. It was enormous.
My whole life changed. It just really brought me into a sense of awakening to myself and to my soul. And that's when I started my shamanic path. And I started the path of a shaman and had all these awakenings to my gifts as a shaman. It actually drove me deeper within myself, because before that, I was in construction, and I had all these like superficial dreams of what I wanted to create in the world. It was all my ego, you know. But that experience really put me deep into my heart and connected me deeper with spirit, because,
sometimes when someone dies, it's actually, they're doing it to give you everyone else around them an expansion. Sometimes when someone, like, it's quite often I hear stories of people say like their mother or their father died, and all of a sudden, like, they went through this intense grief, but when that was done, they expanded into a whole nother level. Because sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, death is a rebirth as well. It's not just a death. It is always a rebirth into a new level of consciousness for that soul. And so, you know, we need to not just mourn them, but celebrate them. That's what they actually want from us. And I feel like if you're having dreams of this guy, there might be a chance he, on a soul level, is just holding on because you haven't fully let go of him and you haven't fully forgiven him. And he's holding on to the guilt of like what happened, because that sometimes happens where a soul doesn't fully leave this dimension because it's wanting to somehow have closure with the person that they love the most, that they left behind. And so, you know, giving them that grace by saying, you know what, it's okay, you know, I'm going to let you go, but knowing that you'll always be in my heart as a part of me. You're always existing within me. You're never actually going to be gone. And that is actually the truth, is that they might be gone from this physical dimension, but in fact, sometimes when someone dies, they're even closer to you than they ever were before. And that's what I've experienced with people that have died in my life. Like my grandmother, when she died, she literally teleported herself from Zim to be by my side while I was awakening. And she was always showing up in all of my scariest moments of awakening to my soul. She was there going, you need to do this and you need to do that, you know? And so, and I never had that connection with her when she was in a body. It was like I had to wait till she was an ancestor for me to have that support from her. So again, it just comes back to trusting that in life, you know, sometimes things happen that we don't fully understand on a mental level, but just trust that the universe knows what it's doing. Even when something bad happens, you know, the universe knows why that person's life was only that length of time. And there's never any mistake, because in truth, we are actually immortal. So,
Yeah. Thank you guys for sharing. This is like so heart opening, you know. It's a painful conversation that's actually, you know, opening so many people on Facebook Sarah also shared about her aunt who also passed 20 years ago, and just how that is still very active within her. So this is like really, really opening us deeper to love. I mean, thank you so much, Max, for sharing about your brother, and Nehanda, all the wisdom that you've been sharing about what all this means at a very higher level, and how if we lean into that, that's where we can, you know, find that deeper love, that forgiveness, that acceptance, you know, that healing essentially. So yeah, thank you guys for today. This conversation was like truth, was love, was all the things. Before we close, you know, for people who want to go deeper with you guys and who are interested in any of your offerings, yeah, maybe we can share now. My heart is like open, but like, you know, yeah.
Well, I'll just say you can find me on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. I do share quite a lot of free things as well. Like right now on my Oshun Lilith YouTube page, there's free meditations, and some of them have how to actually download love frequencies from the universe for free in your everyday life. I think that one is called the 14 healing rays. It's actually there is literally like a ray that opens your heart and helps you to forgive. And there's rays for literally everything. It's like the universe has our back. And so I'm always guided to share things, and I'd like to share a lot of free things. And when I'm not sharing free things, you can go onto my website and see my offerings. But yeah, we will definitely be doing a lot more of this stuff, and just, you know, stay in contact, stay in touch. And we always have, you know, because we're here in Australia, but we understand that a lot of people are in Africa, you know, there's some barriers sometimes to finances and things like that. You know, I think just communicate with us, you know, if we feel like someone needs assistance, we're always willing to help in some way. We can always find a way. And so don't let things like money be a barrier to finding and healing. Like I spent several years of my life healing with no money. And so there's so much goodness and free love on everywhere. If you start looking for it, you'll.
So yeah, and with me, you can find me on Instagram as well at max.imana. I share free stuff on there as well. But recently, I've just been working on my new website. It's called avatarshaman.com. It's live, but it's not finished yet. I'm still adding stuff to it. But there's some stuff on there that you can look at. And it has some of my offerings on there. But particularly right now, it brings back to the question that someone asked me earlier about how to help men. I'm actually running programs for men at the moment, which are self-healing programs, and it's using the warrior energy, but we tap into all the different archetypes, but the base archetypes that we use are the lover, the warrior, the magician, and the king. So we go through all those archetypes, but it's mainly using the warrior energy. So I teach people qigong and breath work and movement and martial arts type stuff, because I find that for men love using that energy to clear themselves. Like, and I think it's a very powerful energy to clear out stuff that's blocking our true selves, and it really allows you to step more into your king energy, which is being more open-hearted and more creative in the world. And so I'm doing that. So if anyone wants to recommend their family members or send anyone to me, I'd love to talk to some people. And
and also if anyone feels like, I recently had a woman from Kenya message me, and she said, can you come speak to us about this particular thing and do a meditation? Like, we're always open to do that. So, you know, if you have a group of friends who are on this journey with you and you guys have some questions, then maybe I can actually create something to share with you guys, or, you know, help.
Also, we want to create like a ancestral healing session. So similar to this, where we get people on Zoom or wherever, and we do it like a genetic or a collective ancestral healing type thing. So we love that together as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. All the offerings you're sharing are so powerful. I've had the pleasure of working with you both, particularly Nehanda, for the last, is it 2 years? You've been doing this. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. And every time we do any genetic clearing, I need months to process and because it's so deep. The work that you are doing is so powerful and so profound that sometimes all that you need is that, whether it's in a group healing as you guys are planning to do, there is so much transformation that really happens when you surrender to the healing and you show up and you just allow all that's inside that is not your true self to just transmute, and being held in a supportive container is so beautiful. So for anyone who's wanting to go deeper, please check out Oshun Lilith. It's also in the website of Warriors of Light. And as soon as Max has his website link, I will also add it, but I will also add it in the replay, which will be available on YouTube as well as Podbean as an audio or video. And you can follow them because they're doing amazing work, free work that's just so powerful and on another level. And you guys are so cool because I literally send a message. It's like, can I have you guys hang? Like, yeah, sure. So you're amazing. Thank you so much. This was so good. Oh my God.
Thanks for having us, Joy. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, love. Oh, I didn't hear that. Bye, love.